Okay, now we're going to create the third item in the design pattern catalog entry for the Vito design pattern. The Vito design pattern is a sample design pattern, and we're going to be able to create the third item in that catalog now. That is the applicability, and the applicability is a general discussion of when your pattern is applicable. So this differs from the motivation. The motivation is a concrete example showing how to apply your design pattern, and the applicability is a more general discussion of where to use your design pattern. So a lot of people get the motivation confused with applicability, but they're very separate things. And let's talk about the applicability of the Vito design pattern now. As you recall, the Vito design pattern looks like this schematically, where you have a core code and you check for a Vito by sending a message through successive links in a chain, and then process the results like this. And if your message went through okay, through all links okay without any vetoes, then the process can continue. Otherwise, if a link vetoed your message, then in fact you're going to have to end the process. So that's the Vito design pattern. Now we're talking about the applicability step, the applicability stage of the design pattern catalog submission process. There's 10 different items, and number 3 is applicability. Applicability, as I mentioned, has to do with the general scenarios in which your design pattern is applicable. It's not the same as motivation. Motivation is generally taken as a specific example. Applicability is more general, more broad. And for example, here's a statement you might have for the applicability of the Vito design pattern. Looks something like this. If you have a situation where you have mission-critical components that may conflict with one another when in the same piece of code, this pattern may be a good one for you. If you don't want to undertake an action unless several well-defined criteria are met, the Vito pattern may help. So that is a general statement of when to work with the Vito design pattern, and that is the pattern's applicability. It says if you don't want to undertake an action unless several well-defined criteria are met, the Vito pattern may help. So that is again a general statement of the applicability of the Vito design pattern, and that is the third step in the design pattern process, design pattern submission process to various design pattern catalogs. And next we're going to take a look at the structure of the design pattern. That's the fourth step, the fourth criteria or item in the design pattern catalog submission process, and that is going to be structure. So this was step number 3, applicability. And this is a general statement of when your design pattern applies and when it can be helpful. So once again, designing the Vito design pattern, step number 3, applicability, and coming up next is step number 4, the structure of the design pattern. In that you have to specify the actual structure and how the Vito design pattern will work. It's coming up next.